In the political analyst world, there is a feeling that the old political establishment, which was crumbling for several years, has finally been defeated. But it still has some remnants that keep corrupting the U.S. political system. For example, the amount of money sloshing through politics is unprecedented. There are literally no limits through PAC organizations and the like on the wealthiest people and corporations buying influence. And that influence outweighs the leverage of most ordinary Americans. Changing that dynamic is practically impossible because in order for campaign finance reforms to get through, the change would have to get past the well-heeled power of the media. That's right, the media. The industry that benefits the most from billions of dollars in campaign ad dollars is the same group that brings you the news on broadcast, cable, and streaming. Broadcasters, streamers, and the like pay for their news and analysis operations through advertisements, and a huge portion comes from political ads. The media is not about to give this up, so you're not going to see much of the media talk about or endorse efforts to institute campaign finance reform. Another obstacle to change in the United States involves the trillion-dollar military industrial complex. The annual Pentagon budget is about $850 billion. And many of the weapons manufacturers make hundreds of billions of dollars more through other government agencies. Here, though, we see some unity on the far right and the progressive left. As the USA Today headline noted recently, Bernie Sanders takes aim at defense spending. Elon Musk is right. Musk has been tasked by Donald Trump with gutting government spending and cutting it. The Pentagon has failed a string of audits and cannot seem to keep track of billions of dollars. For Sanders, who believes the United States should spend less on the military and perhaps more on things like education, there could be an opportunity in teaming up on part of this with Elon Musk. The problem Elon Musk has is that any Pentagon budget cuts would have to get past Donald Trump. Still, even TYT's Cenk Uygur may have identified some common ground with the Trump administration. Cenk recently wrote on X, "Hey Elon Musk, put me in charge of the Pentagon, all slash 400 billion easy. That will get you 20% to your goal of 2 trillion in cuts right out of the gate. I went to Wharton 3 years before you. I own a media company, so I know how to run a business. If you really want to cut, put me in, coach." Musk wrote, "Specific suggestions are welcome." Cenk replied, "As you know, you need to see the line items in the budget, but I have one suggestion already. The generals are not allowed to get a job with defense contractors for 10 years. They authorize so much wasteful spending because they are going to get hired by those same companies." Donald Trump Jr. wrote, "That's a great idea that has been discussed." The exchange underscores that there are some areas of common ground on the right and the left, and the process of opening the dialogue has begun. In my view, there will be plenty of opportunities to find common ground, and not just when it comes to wasteful military spending. The fundamental shifts in our economy and the uncertainty that so many Americans feel right now is related to modernization. An Oxford study a few years ago found that because of high tech, things like robots and artificial intelligence, half of all the jobs that exist today will not be around in 20 years. There will be some new jobs created, but we don't even have names for them yet. Autonomous vehicle maintainer instead of what used to be known as car mechanic. The bottom line is that change is happening so quickly, it is transforming our communities and our work in record time. And it's creating, for a lot of people and their communities, incredible instability and uncertainty. How do we get retrained for the jobs of the future? Where do we go for that? Who pays for it all? These are issues that are non-political. And there are huge opportunities for bipartisan solutions. But the flip side is that if our government and leaders do not find some solutions, the public distrust of all things in our society, media, education, government, and politics, will be even more intense. Throughout history, most nations crumble when the middle class disappears and the gap between rich and poor keeps growing. That's the path America is on now. But there are ways we can come together to change things, restore some faith and unity in our nation, and answer the growing calls of populism.
So, Cenk, you're facing some heat. You went to the Turning Point event over the weekend. Charlie Kirk was there. You got a standing ovation, which is a little weird, but we're going to go through some of the things that you found agreement with them on, and then some of the criticisms for even going and why, things that were said. So let's start with the moments where you were able to find common ground, and then from there, why the crowd was clearly picking up in some parts what you're putting down, and others where you found a little opposition. So let's take a look at this first. First of all, the crowd, which of course was overwhelmingly right-wing, like I said, gave you a standing ovation. Look at that, you got borderline pyrotechnics here, Cenk.
Wow. Pyrotechnics for everybody.
So it's probably a warmer welcome than you might have expected if someone told you were going to be doing this a year ago.
Yeah, no, I mean a year ago, 3 months ago. So if you said to me, in fact, I did a video that is behind the scenes where I said, look, when I was running in the primary and we went to Phoenix to collect signatures and we couldn't make it, we didn't get enough signatures, and it was kind of a low point for us in Phoenix. And if you told me at that point you're going to come back here, less than a year from now, and you're gonna have fought super hard against Donald Trump. You're gonna have done this Trump madness thing where you talk about his worst lies, where you've attacked him 1,000 different ways. And then after the election, after he wins, you're gonna go to Turning Point USA thing and they're gonna give you a standing ovation. I would have said, you're nuts. That's not even, I don't, in what world is that possible? So yes, I'm surprised by it.
Yeah, so there were some moments where you were able to find common enemies with them. Let's take a look.
What do you guys think of Mitch McConnell?
All right. Yes, let's do one more. What do you guys think about Dick Cheney?
And there were some other moments where you were able to find some common ground. Let's take a look.
The problem is the establishment. They are controlled by the donor class, and mainstream media is their marketing arm. They do not do news, they do propaganda. You came on the Young Turks at the RNC, and we started talking about banning private equity from buying residential real estate.
Which I totally agree with. That the young people in this audience should not have to compete against BlackRock to be able to own a home. Do you guys agree?
Higher wages for Americans, time off for moms after they have a baby, anti-corruption,
totally agree with that.
anti-war. The reason
audit the Pentagon.
Oh yes, make sure the generals cannot work for the military-industrial complex afterwards, and free Edward Snowden.
I agree.
You're welcome.
Okay, well, here's the thing. I want to point, so I think you look at that clip. I think anybody can watch that clip, and if they are well-meaning, okay, well, there's nothing objectionable in that, in what you said.
Yes.
People will have an issue with you being next to Charlie Kirk at a Turning Point event. So I want to get into that too, but I think how people represented this over the weekend was unfair. Because I saw people who are known for posting video clips post screenshots randomly today. I'm just taking the video day off because I don't want to post anything of what you said. So let's
because what I said was really progressive and populist.
So anyway, but I do think there's something I wanted to bring up from our conversation on Friday. We didn't get into it. Now, you and I might not totally align on this strategy, but of course I see what you see in the utility of doing it. But one thing I wanted to get into was where do they go from here? So simply, if people tune into the Young Turks, which some people I think unfairly criticize this whole strategy for being the ultimate goal. How do you take these people who are right-wing populists and filter them into something that has an organizing capacity, that puts them to work to try to build toward these policy goals in a space that isn't under the umbrella of a, I would argue, hollow right-wing populist that often scapegoats marginalized groups? So what is the organizing and apparatus solution for these folks?
So let's break it down one by one. So first of all, I get why people are concerned. So I don't want people to misunderstand that, because normally the pattern is you go to one event and then you agree with, the normal pattern is they agree with the right-wing position, right? And then they agree with a second right-wing position, and then all the right-wing positions. And then they do the classic, see, even this liberal or progressive agrees with us. But wait a minute, they didn't keep any of their progressive positions. So of course they agree with you because they flipped. But not only did I not flip any of my positions, but the right wing knows that. I've now said it on so many right-wing shows that by the time I came in, they already know I'm a left-wing populist and I haven't changed any of my positions. So guys, it has to matter if they've come to us instead of us going to them. So when the classic, Dave Rubin maneuver where he goes to Tucker Carlson and goes, oh my God, the real problem of the forest fires is not climate change, let's protect the oil companies. It's that the California allowed gay people to become firefighters. They're using Dave to do that because Dave is gay, so that he attacks based on identity politics and agrees with their absurd point It has nothing to do with gay firefighters. It has to do with climate change, right? But I don't do any of that. And so this leads to the second point, Jordan. So this is like, once you get past the thing of like, if you talk to them, I think you're gonna go pull the entire Dave Rubin and wind up as a sellout, et cetera. Okay, that's fine. I get the concern, but you have to actually see, did I do that or did I not do that? Okay, so that's point one. Point two is, okay, are they coming to us or are we going to them? So let me ask the folks that are left wing in the audience and you, like, have we always been anti-war or have we been pro-war? We've been anti-war, right? So when they wildly cheer an anti-war position, that cannot be a bad thing. We'll talk about the next step in a second, okay? But they came to us on anti-war. They came to us on anti-Mitch McConnell, anti-Dick Cheney. Did you hear Charlie Kirk there say, oh, mom should get time off? Paid family leave, they're coming to us on paid family leave. They're coming to us on BlackRock is bad and should not be able to buy residential homes. Look, the reason why I'm more open to it is because about a year ago, I started going on these right-wing shows, and what I started hearing was surprising and then shocking to me. Even if they're faking it, guys, the very fact that all their hosts are saying, oh, we can't let the bankers buy up our homes, which is a fundamentally progressive position, is incredible turn of events. If you say, oh, that's no different than before, well, you're just wrong. You're factually, empirically wrong. I've been on those shows. I've debated those guys for 25 years. They never said they hated Mitch McConnell until about 4 years ago. They never said that they hated Dick Cheney. I mean, my God, I had nuclear brawls with them over Dick Cheney, right? They never said that they were in favor of paid family leave. All these things are new. When I was talking to the guys that were on the ground floor after I did the speech, I talked to, like, I don't know, 100 MAGA guys or whatever. There's a right-wing socialist. There was all these people that I'm like, I didn't know that was even a thing, right? So this base is different than it used to be. Now, I get it, people are super skeptical and again, for good reason, because in the past, it's not like Trump didn't have a first term, he did. And in that first term, he was a fake populist. And that's why all the way through this election, I said he's a fake populist, don't buy into it, right? And so far, has Trump done anything that's actually populist? No, he hasn't, right? So the proof is always in the pudding. But when they start to say things like, you're right, you shouldn't say to them, fascist. You should say, oh, I'll take the win. You said yes to what we want. I mean, it's unbelievable that I have to try to convince the left to say yes when the other side is agreeing. And now, one thing is their leaders, the other thing is the people in the audience, right? And those people in the audience aren't lying, okay? So for people that you think like that the average guy that's going, yeah, no war, is secretly like nudging his friend and going, oh, we're gonna be pro-war, right? Well, let's trick this one leftist up there. We love war, but let's pretend to be anti-war. Yay, anti-war. No, they're real people. They're not faking it, right? And the fact that his base is some of those things is amazing and great. Okay, now finally, yes, but are they actually going to do any of those things? I don't know, guys. Okay, you think I don't control Elon Musk, I don't control Donald Trump, but so I'm not guaranteeing that their leaders are going to do paid family leave and cutting the Pentagon and all these things. And they have a terrible track record. But Trump does respond to his base, and you all know the Democrats never respond to their base. So if his base is pushing him to be anti-war, there's some percentage chance that he will be anti-war. But even if he isn't, now that we've had this conversation on a national level over and over and over again, if he says, oh, Israel's going to bomb Iran and start a giant war, well, here's 30 billion to do that, 50 billion to do that. Here's our fighter jets and our aircraft carriers so you can fight this war with our military. Okay, this will be a good litmus test because Israel's gonna start some war and they're gonna wanna make us pay for it 100%, we all know that. Left knows that, right knows that, every sane person knows that. So that's gonna be where the rubber hits the road. Because I know Trump, he will do what the Adelsons ordered him to do. And he will say, yes, Israel, here's all the money in the world, kill them, bomb them, etc. And when he does that, does the base go, oh, we meant pro-war, yay, pro-war, we never meant it, as long as Israel's doing it, here, take all of our money, kill anyone you like? Or do they go, no, we ran a whole campaign on anti-war. What the hell are you doing? And do they rebel? I don't know the answer to that, but I now know that there is a chance that they will rebel. And I know that's where I lose a lot of you. I know they go, no way, they're never gonna rebel. Everyone on the right wing is crazy. But and then lastly on that, Jordan, look, this idea of talking to them or not talking to them. I've now heard countless people say, you cannot ever talk to them because they're all racist, fascist, et cetera, right? 77 million Americans voted for Donald Trump. If you think they're all fascist and they're all racist, you're in a bubble and you don't realize it. That's a crazy thing to think.
That was the consensus position after 2016 too. When you saw mainstream media summarily dismiss the Rust Belt and post-industrial America as racist and sexist and fascist because they voted for Trump, while ignoring that Hillary Clinton was bad on trade. And also, like, I'm from Youngstown, I'm from the Rust Belt, and I know that people there have seen their jobs disappear, a city shrink, people fall into bankruptcy, and they know that NAFTA was a big part of it. And you would point that out, or I would see people talk about it, and you have elite reporters dismiss the idea that somebody in Gary, Indiana, or Youngstown, Ohio, or Flint, Michigan would know what NAFTA is or the effects. No, these people are just as smart as you and me. These people are working there. Many of them are in unions or work in GM plants. They know what NAFTA is and they know how it's decimated the workforce. And when Hillary is linked to that through her husband and was pushing things like TPP, to summarily dismiss all of them is ignorance on the media's part.
Yeah, and the Republicans were smart enough to be fake populist. Our side was like establishment, rah, 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 and that is a deeply unpopular position. Wouldn't it be amazing if we ran a real populist on the left? And because that would win an election. And so, and look, you put folks to the test. So these folks all say that they have these positions. I'm telling you, as far as their voters are concerned, I believe that they do have those positions. And I think, almost the entirety of the rest of the left is saying, no, we believe their voters are liars, we believe their voters are bad people, and that you're a dupe, and you got duped into this, and they're gonna slowly reel you in. By the end, I'm gonna be like, oh my God, corporate tax cuts, right? That's never gonna happen. And when it doesn't happen, are people gonna go, oh right, hey, look at that, Cenk didn't turn into a right-winger. Well, we'll see.
Well, it wasn't all rosy there. There were some moments where you got mixed reactions from the crowd. So let's take a look at this.
I want to ask you guys something. Do you believe that trans Americans should have the same constitutional rights as all Americans to employment, healthcare, and housing? Constitutional rights.
Do you want me to translate? Well, there is no constitutional right to housing.
Okay, so I hear you. What I got out of that, guys.
I'm just trying to be the interpreter.
Yeah. No, there was a lot of applause and there was some consternation, right? I'll take it. It's a start. It's a start.
And then there was also some booing when you talked about gun control.
Some of my policies might be called extreme left in America. So for example, I'm massively in favor of gun control. You told them not to boo, but I knew they'd boo on that one.
So I think, again, I think some people are worried that they talk about these things, they aren't going to fight for them or advocate them. There is a potential that we're talking, if you want to change the outcome of an election, maybe 1% to 2% of people switch, and they could be in the same camp, that maybe not in that room because that's an organizing effort, but could be in that same survey we talked about earlier, right? They might have voted for Democrats in the past. They're disillusioned with the party. The party has ceded ground on some of these issues to the right, and here we are. So I guess, do you want to talk about those moments, but also beyond this revolt, what is there to be gained for progressives to continue in these conversations in spaces that are hostile like that?
Yeah, so first of all, this is gonna be part of what we're gonna conclude on. We have a poll for just our members, because look, you open up the poll, you don't know if it's right-wingers, left-wingers, what portion of the left is voting, et cetera. But if you're a member of TYT, and you can become a member at tyt.com, or if you're watching on YouTube, you hit the join button below. We're asking you guys, should we talk to the right wing and try to find common ground? Yes or no? Should we talk to the right wing and try to find common ground? And I'm genuinely curious what our members think. And we'll see. So for me, so you see there on trans rights, my read of the room and the reaction was that 2/3 applauded in the room for constitutional rights, okay? And a third were like, right? Which sounds about right to me. Like there's a portion of the base that are like, no, I hate trans people. I don't want anything to do with it. I don't want constitutional rights. I don't want anything, right? But a lot of them, and when I go on the shows, a lot of them go, oh yeah, constitutional rights. Yeah, that makes sense, right? But Charlie surprised me a little bit there by saying that housing is not a constitutional right. And I would debate him on that. And I'm happy to debate him on that, et cetera. We also had a question about the amendment, right? And Second Amendment, and I would debate him on that. But again, as we've talked about, and as I explained to the audience there, I'm extreme left on gun control within the American context. In Europe, I'm like right down the middle, right? So, but again, I wouldn't emphasize that in an election time because I don't think that that's a good strategy. Now, to the core of your question about what do we gain out of this? So first off, if you lost the popular vote, you need to win people back. So if you say, I'm not gonna talk to anyone that voted against us, well then by definition, you have no chance of winning them back, right? And if you say, I'm going to further insult the people who voted against us, all of them, well, you're gonna drive even more people away. Like it's almost a position that is purposely unpopular. And it makes no sense, right? So if you say, hey, I'm gonna win those people back by agreeing with the right wing, that also makes no sense. That doesn't win them back at all, right? So what you do is, number one, you talk a similar language so that you're not driving people away. I was on a trans show this morning, Dollcast. I hope people check that out. And we talked about, when you talk about toxic masculinity, it makes it seem like masculinity is toxic, right? Whereas if you say, hey, do you guys want guys who beat their wives? The right wing will be like, no way, no, we don't, that's crazy, right? So that instead of calling it toxic masculinity, you use different words that makes it clear that you're talking about the bad guys and not all men, right? Like easy ways of being able to find common ground so that we could then go, okay, now that we found the common ground, all right, here's where we disagree and here's where we agree, right? So, and then number two, you'll never know if they agree with you on certain things if you never talk to them. Yeah. Like, so if I'd never gone on the right wing shows, I never went to this AmFest stuff, and I came and told you guys, oh, I think that they agree with us on private equity, not buying the residential homes. Everybody would have said you're nuts, right? They're still saying I'm nuts. But there's a dozen right wing hosts. There's Charlie Kirk. There's the entire AmFest audience going, yeah, ban BlackRock from buying our homes, right? So now you see it with your own eyes. And you want to be skeptical, no problem. Nobody's saying, open your door and let them walk all in. But remember guys, here's one last absurdity. They say if you go to talk to them, it gives them legitimacy. You know what gives them legitimacy? They won the election. They don't need us for legitimacy. Not only did they win the election, not only did they win every swing state, they won the popular vote. Who are you kidding that they need your permission for anything? So, for God's sake, we've got to listen to one another. If we don't listen to one another, you won't even know that you agree on some things.
Well, I think part of it, I know we're way past time, but I think a lot of the criticism was also that it was Charlie Kirk specifically. And it was at Turning Point, which is a big influential right-wing organizing effort to feed young people into the Republican Party. And while he's saying these things, I would be shocked if Charlie Kirk used Turning Point's resources to fight for any of these things if they broke from the Trump agenda. And beyond that, there's also the association with Kirk and Turning Point because this is a group that bust people to January 6th. They bust them to the Capitol. He, as recent as this year, has called the Great Replacement Theory a reality, not a conspiracy theory, but a reality. He has employed people like Jack Posobiec, who's a white nationalist. He doesn't seem to actually care about these things beyond the populist aesthetic.
But guys, talking to someone is not vouching for all of their opinions.
I'm not saying that, but
so,
it's just
like
associating with him at his event. I think people were concerned and just disappointed.
By the way, no. So I get why people are concerned because of the patterns we talked about in the beginning. But if you then say, I know Cenk doesn't fit those patterns, but I think we should never talk to them because they believe all these things. But wait a minute, they could do it in reverse too. They could say, and by the way, some right wingers did say that, Charlie Kirk. They're like, what are you talking to Cenk and the Young Turks for? Do you know what the Young Turks have done? You know that they helped start Justice Democrats? You know they supported Bernie? You know they think this? They think trans people should have constitutional rights? They were in favor of gay marriage before anybody else. So boo, boo, don't talk to them, don't talk to them. Okay, so if that side says don't talk and this side says don't talk, well then we're never gonna talk. And then we're never gonna find out anything. We're never gonna see if we have common ground. We're never going to be able to say, hey guys, as I said to that room, and by the way, it's the whole speech is up on our YouTube channel, you could watch it, right? The whole interaction. I said to them, be wary of your donors. If there's no left-winger that goes in there, there's not a single person that says at that conference, beware of not just Democratic donors, but your own Republican donors, right? And there was a little bit of a hush in the crowd in my estimation when I said that, because Elon's a donor, right? And I'm reminding them that Elon's a donor. And by the way, a lot of times people then earnestly go, well, I know. And then I'll say, you remember how Trump said, I was against electric vehicles, but then Elon gave me a strong endorsement. So now I'm in favor of electric. They know that Trump does that, right? So I'm not saying that it's a guarantee, lock it in, these guys are gonna hold them accountable, and the flowers are gonna bloom and the rainbows are gonna appear, then Trump's gonna become a progressive. No, of course not, right? But you don't know if you can get to agreement, and you don't know if their populist base is for real and authentic until you put them to the test, until you have a conversation with them, they go on the record, and then we're all gonna find out together. So if the strategy that the other folks on the left has is never talk to anyone who didn't vote for you and call them racist and fascist, I can guarantee you that strategy is never going to work. That is a guaranteed, lock it in, we lose the popular vote for the rest of our lives, and all we ever do is push people out, push people out, push people out. That is a wrong strategy. And by the way, I also think the wrong strategy is, I just trust them on everything now. That's also not the right strategy, right? But trying to find common ground, I think is the correct strategy, and time will tell, time will tell. But if you have people say, no, he went there, so that must mean he agrees with them. That is not how conversations work. You state your opinion, they state their opinion, and it goes back and forth, right? So I'm curious what our members are gonna say in this poll, tyt.com/polls if you're a member. And but look, whether it's the right wing trying to lure people in, or it's the left wing yelling at people for talking to the right wing, for better or for worse, I am an immovable object. Okay, so you're not gonna get me to change my policy by yelling at me if you're on the right. You're not gonna get me to change my policy by yelling at me if you're on the left, okay? And I'm not changing any of my progressive populist policies, but I am going to have conversations. I'm gonna keep talking to them. I'm gonna keep going on their shows. I'm also gonna keep going on left-wing shows, and we're also gonna invite left-wingers here, right-wingers, and at the Young Turks, we're gonna have a national conversation. And if you say, boo, I don't want any talking, go to other talk shows that don't talk, okay? So enjoy, right? And I'm not trying to push you away. I'm not doing the same thing as them. What I'm saying is, but if you have an open mind and an open heart, this is the perfect place for you. Let's come and have a national conversation here.